Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Let's go ahead and start. We're here for the Silver City Planning and Zoning Commission for Tuesday, December 1st, 2015. Everyone welcome, and if you would please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, first, Mrs. Imbeck, if you would please do roll call.
Commissioner Clemens?
Here.
Commissioner Stephen?
Here.
Commissioner Lodge?
Here.
Commissioner Seibel? Commissioner Siebenthal?
Here. Okay. And if Commissioner Seibel shows up in time before we start the hearing, then he'll be able to vote. So we'll keep an eye on when he shows up here. Next is approval of the agenda for the evening. Does anyone have any changes, issues, questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda for this evening.
I'll second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, the agenda is approved for this evening. Approval of minutes from September 1st, which was our last meeting. It's been a little while. Did everyone have a chance to look over the minutes? Yes. Did anyone have any changes, questions? No. Okay. Would anybody care to make a motion to approve the minutes from September 1st?
I move to approve the minutes of September 1st, 2015 as stated.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, minutes from the last meeting are approved. Okay. This evening, we have no old business, so the public hearing is VA 15-02. It's a request for a variance to allow a carport to be constructed within the setback on the property addressed as 927 Camino del Sueños. The applicant is the owner, James Keels. And let me just real quickly go over how the process will work this evening. We first have the Community Development Department give an overview of the case, and then the applicant will come up and speak for their case. If after that there's anyone who wants to speak in favor of it, that will be the time, and then following that, if there's anyone here who wants to speak opposed to this application, that will be their turn. However, before anybody can speak, you do need to sign in, swear in. Swearing in doesn't mean you have to speak, but you can't speak if you don't swear in. So anybody who would thinks they might like to testify this evening, if they would come up to the microphone, please, and take an oath. Okay, speak after me. And state your name. Do solemnly swear that the testimony I'm about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, on penalty of perjury. Thank you. Okay. And then before we begin, I just need to ask of the commissioners, has anyone here had any ex parte conversations?
No.
Okay. Okay, in that case, if we can hear from the planning department.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is VA 15-02, 927 Camino de Sueños, which is a variance. The applicant is Mr. James Keels, the owner of the property. A little background information on a variance and the definition out of the land use code is best at first. So a variance allows a structure to be built if strict enforcement of the land use code prevents use of the property or anything of that nature. This is Mr. Keel's home. It's being constructed, so I took this photo a week or so ago. This is his home here. You'll see that he has his yellow sign posted there. This is the sidewalk and drive pad in front. And this is the parking lot for Vista de Plata. So this is the area that Mr. Keels has to use for parking. There is a requirement by the subdivision, the covenants, that you have to have a carport or garage. So he is required to have one or the other. This is a view of the home again with a larger view of the parking area that's available for use by anyone in the subdivision, guests, visitors, anything like that. This is a view facing north. This is Mr. Keel's home. This is the parking lot. And this is the neighbor's home that you'll notice seems to be set a little further towards the curb than Mr. Keel's. And that's the notice of decision that you received in your packet. They received a variance for their carport, their garage actually, being closer than 20 feet to the property line. And you'll notice in the notice of decision that that was a mistake made by the town, and that they had already poured the slab before it had come to anyone's attention. So that situation was a little bit different. This slab had already been poured, and the house had already got a building permit with the plans that were submitted and everything. It was a mistake by the department that allowed that to happen. This is a photo of the front area. This is the drive pad to Mr. Keel's property, and this is his front yard area. This is a view of his drive pad, and you'll notice here there's a little bit of landscaping and rock that you'll see in this photo. So that's river rock that's for drainage that Mr. Ely said could be covered or replaced or moved. So that's movable, except for the telephone box. The river rock is movable. This is the neighbor's house again that has the site-built garage, which is different than the carport. So I will go ahead and read the definition of a variance for you. A variance allows a building or structure to be built if strict enforcement of the land use code would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship for the applicant, and that by granting the variance, the spirit of the land use code will be observed, public safety and welfare secured, and substantial justice done. Under no conditions shall a variance permit a use that is not otherwise permitted in the zone district to where the property is located. All homes in the subdivision are required to have a carport or garage, so it is necessary that Mr. Keels construct one. The variance has been issued for the neighbor that is adjoining, but it was for a completely different set of circumstances, and it was the Community Development Department's mistake that led to that, requiring a variance. And after conducting a site visit to the property, staff has suggested several options for constructing the carport within the existing setbacks. I'll read the required findings into the record so that you won't need to in your motion. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall only approve a variance if it makes the following findings as required by the Land Use Code, Section 6.3.19D. Number 1, the hardship of which the applicant complains is one that is unique to the applicant rather than one suffered by the neighbors or the general public. Number 2, the hardship relates to the applicant's land or property. And number 3, the hardship was not created by the deliberate action of the applicant or by one under his control, and reasonable remedies are not presently available. 4, the granting of the variance is consistent with the town's comprehensive plan. 5, the granting of the variance is in harmony with the purposes and intent of the Land Use Code. 6, the granting of the variance will not be injurious to the neighborhood surrounding the property where the variance is proposed, and it otherwise is not detrimental to the public welfare. 7, the variance will not result in the extension, expansion, or enlargement of a non-conforming structure in violation of Article 7 and will not authorize the initiation of a non-conforming use of land. In its review of the application, the Community Development Department is of the opinion that findings 1, 3, and 5 have not been met by the applicant and that several reasonable remedies exist without a variance being granted. You'll also notice, let me go back to some photos. In your letter from Mr. Ely in your packet, Mr. Keels was aware when he chose this lot that it had less buildable area than the other ones that were available. And his home was actually designed by the designer of his choice on this lot. So they were aware of it from the beginning. And there are other options to place the carport. Let me go back to the very first photo. This is the front door of the home, and the town has actually suggested that he build a carport there to shelter the front entrance, and then it's the 20 feet that's required from the property line on the street side, and it'll be easier to pull into because you can just drive straight in and then back up right here to turn around. So the department is of the opinion that without the variance, there are other reasonable remedies to construct a carport within the parameters of the land use code. And with that, I will revisit anything or be open to questions. Sure, you'd like this picture left up? Or a different one?
I think that one.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, and is Mr. Keels present, or is there someone here presenting for him?
Mr. Keels?
Mr. Keels? Okay, are you ready to go ahead and present? And I ask that you state your name and also remember to speak into the microphone because this is televised and it's best for them to be able to hear. So thank you.
I'm Jim Keels, and I'm going to let Tim speak for me, and I may have some things I want to talk about afterwards, but I'm going to let him talk for me.
I'm Tim Donovan, and I'm Mr. Keel's broker and his friend, and I would like to say that Jim is 76 years old. He's a veteran. He's on a very fixed income, and he is an almost ideal candidate for the kind of subsidized housing that Vista La Plata represents. I personally became aware of some of the differences that this lot represents as opposed to the other lots over a period of time. We didn't have a lot of opportunity to select a variety of lots. This is the only lot on that side of the development that was available, and it was important, I think, to the town that something be built on that lot. I believe you all have a copy of this map. The lots to the north were all developed to the lot line. For whatever reason, this lot was not, and so he loses a certain amount of space in the back. It just drops off. Consequently, the house had to be moved closer to the street in order to have a level building site for the house, and that's what resulted in us trying to figure how to put a carport in, conform with the reduced size of the lot, and still accommodate a vehicle. I believe you also have our submittals on these 7 points. I'd be glad to respond to any questions you have about our answers to that. And I would further say that what we're suggesting seems to be a common sense solution to a problem Mr. Keels is facing. You can get a compact car into a carport with the setback. You can't get a standard-sized vehicle into it, and we tried. That's why we're asking to set it back to the property line. You set it back to the property line, there's some landscaping rocks, and then there's a drainage ditch, and then there's a parking lot. So there's actually nothing that it would affect moving it to the south. And so our feeling is that given the fact that he was kind of shorted on the side of his lot to begin with, given the fact that a variance is granted for the house next door to accommodate parking and garages, and given the fact that there's really no harm done here, and the other solutions just do not seem adequately workable from a construction point of view. So that's why we're asking for the variance.
Do any commissioners have questions for Mr. Donovan?
About putting the carport underneath those two windows right there, those two little eyebrow windows? Is that where you were talking about it going?
No, the carport we're proposing is over on the south side of the lot, where the arrow is over in that area.
Oh, like it is on the map, okay. Would there be a problem putting the carport by those two windows?
Yes, it would. We would be too close to the street if we did that. It would, if we had the whole lot to work with to begin with, that probably would be a solution. This is a house that is passive solar in its design, so we need the southern exposure in order to incorporate the passive solar effect. And if we could move the house back, we could put the carport where those two windows are you mentioned. But that's just not possible given the land we had to work with.
Why are you unable to do where the city had recommended?
The city recommends that we build it here. The problem is this radius is too difficult to turn into for a standard-sized vehicle. If we move it back to the property line, you get enough maneuverability to get in and out of the carport.
And was the house designed with the idea where the carport was going to be hopefully going now when it was built? I mean, it's already built, it's already up. Was the carport a part of the original design?
Yes, it was, but it was designed to be against the property line, not where it's currently represented on this map.
Where you
It wasn't.
You
It really
designed to
wasn't
put it where
built.
you would like to put it, within the setback?
Yes, we'd like to put it 5 feet to the south to set it right against the property line.
Is that not obstructing passive solar?
No, ma'am.
No?
It would be just this structure, which is east of the structure itself, just being moved 5 feet to the south.
The property line you're referring to is where, I'm assuming, is where the additional overflow parking is going to be?
Yes,
Okay, it's not the street, and it's not the house on the other side. It's right there.
that's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And instead of being, it's going to be 0 feet, the request is 0 feet from that line?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How many feet back from the street? That's the part that I couldn't figure out looking at your drawing here. What are you proposing?
I'm not sure what the dimensions from the street to the structure is.
Whether or not it would be within the 20-foot setback from the street or not?
Do you know?
I don't know, but that's what was recommended by Mike Ely.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's how far it is from the street, but that's why we have it drawn up like this, because that's what they recommended. What happened was we were going to put it on the end of the house, But because of the 15 feet that we didn't know we didn't have, we only had 85 feet to build on, and it was supposed to be 100. So we couldn't put it there because of the variance, so they said we could put it here. Do you have this copy of this?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's where they told us to put it. That's why we put it there. But now we tried to turn into it, and only if you have a small vehicle can you turn into it. But if you were back 5 foot, then you could put any kind of a vehicle, standard vehicle in there without too much trouble.
And by saying it, if you're back 5 feet, if it's 5 feet further closer to the front door, is that what you're saying?
No, it's 5 feet further back from where you turn in the driveway, so you have more room to turn the vehicle in to get it into the garage.
Oh, what does this garage, carport look like?
It's a metal structure with a metal roof. The back side of it will be storage space, a solid covered type. The back of it will be solid, and there'll be cupboards for storage in there.
When you say the back of it, is that the part that's going to be
The part
facing?
furthest to the south.
That's going to be facing that parking lot there?
That's correct, yes.
I see. And you said it was a 1 or a 2-car carport?
One.
1-car carport. And it has storage on that south side there. Okay.
This subdivision was designed by the city, and the covenants were done by the city?
Yes, and also, if you'll look at the plat that you have, you'll notice that it's 31 feet from the corner of the house to the property line, and a carport or garage needs to be set back 20 feet, so there's plenty of room to turn it the other way and pull straight in, especially where it says covered porch slab on your thing by the front door. There's more than 20 feet there if you'd like to pull in straight. That would be in this area here.
And that would alleviate the concern with the turn.
Completely, yes.
Would it block the front door, though?
No, it could actually protect the front door, or you could put it next to the house, right here, and it wouldn't interfere. It would be lower than the level of the roof, so it wouldn't interfere with the passive solar. You could even put panels on the carport.
And is there a minimum size build requirement in the subdivision?
No.
If it was put where you're talking about, it would I'm sorry, I can't come up with the word. It would be in front of those windows that are right there.
Are you talking about these bigger windows?
Yes.
That's an option, but there's also plenty of room because it's a 5-foot setback to move it over to 5 feet from the property line on this side. So if it was facing east and west instead of north and south, there's a lot more room to play with where you put it there. Because of course they're longer than they are wide.
Yeah. What is the city's aversion to what Mr. Donovan and Mr. Keels are recommending?
Well, if you'll notice in the staff report, we have no way possible to make it fit the 7 required findings. And as our position in the Community Development Department is, we support and enforce the land use code as it's written. And variances are generally very hard to get. They've been created to be very hard to get. And the reasons are spelled out in the findings. And we just don't really see that this fits in the need for a variance, especially the finding that requires there's be no other opportunity to use the property. And it just seems like there's a lot of other viable solutions in this case. Setbacks are created, that's also why I included that definition in your staff report, to create a buffer and a boundary between properties. And in this case, there is a parking area next to it, but it'll also be solidly blocked on that wall, which probably will encourage graffiti and that kind of thing in the neighborhood. But we just really can't get around the finding that is required, that there's no other option, and that there was no, that the problem wasn't created by the applicant or someone under his control. The lot across the street and to the north was available also, but Mr. Keels chose this lot and had the home designed for this lot. So that's also what Mr. Ely has stated in his letter. The designer of the home, I'm quoting Mr. Ely, in addition, the designer of the home did so with full knowledge that either a carport or garage was necessary to meet the subdivision's covenants and the setback requirements. And in his meetings with Mr. Ely, that's why this variance has come up, because Mr. Ely explained to him that there's just no other way to put the carport where he wants it but a variance. So he applied in October. It just takes a long time for the public notice and everything. So we've been in discussion that with other opportunities since the home was designed.
Here says that the lot was donated to you? Mr. Donovan?
Yes, the Vista La Plata development provides the lot, and Mr. Keels provides the financing for the construction of the house. That was accomplished through the USDA, and we actually had some officials from the USDA down for the groundbreaking ceremonies. And I'd also like to say, when we're talking about this area here for a carport, number one, it would impede the passive solar in these windows, and number two, the driveway's over here, so you'd have to make an S-curve to get into it, and that's almost impossible. I don't think you can do that. So this area, can you all see what I'm talking about?
Show it on the picture there? Kind of.
This area right here is what we're looking at. This wall of the house is where those two larger windows are, two smaller windows above the outlet. But to put a carport here, you're going to block these windows, and you're going to make it even more difficult to get into the carport. This is almost where the carport has to go.
And the driveway and the sidewalks were put in before the construction started.
That's correct.
And it would be very, very difficult to change the location to move that down so you would have a straight shot. So you have to come in at some and make some sort of turn, no matter which design would be the variance or no variance. Okay, thank you.
And this area in the back that we were unable to use for
Right.
we became aware of that after the lot got selected and when we began to design for the home, we realized we were short. And so this design is virtually the best legal. And we know that you can't get a full-size vehicle carport in this area. I mean, it's really, really tight.
Why was there no other choice of other lots? How does that work? Actually, we do have to go in the mic just so that people on the television can hear. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier. If we're on TV, and so they can't hear you on the TV if you don't speak into the mic. Thanks. So the question is, why this particular lot? Why was there no, how does the selection of which lot is...
I'm not completely aware of the town's plans, but I think this is a phased development. There were 4 homes already built in a 6-lot phase. Mr. Keels could have had a lot on either the east or the west side of the street. He chose a lot on the west side because there's a viewscape involved. On the east side, there's not, and it's carved out of the side of a hill. The lot he chose is much more attractive and conducive to a nice way of living. He could have chosen the other lot. but nobody in their right mind would do that. And the lot on the west side of the street has a viewscape looking down the canyon. When you're standing in that house, you have a really nice view. The entire lot is flat and buildable. The lot on the other side of the street is carved out of a hillside. Do we have any pictures of that?
No, I don't have a photo.
Okay. So you miss about half of the sun you're entitled to in the morning, and your view is of a cut bank looking out to the east. So desirability is the answer to the question, but it's a stark difference between the two lots.
Other questions for the applicant?
So the variance is asking for a 0 setback on the west side of the house.
Yes.
They're not talking about a setback from the street,
No.
but that needs to be 20 feet.
Yes.
Is it 20 feet from the street, or is it 20 feet from the sidewalk?
The lot line. And you'll see that on your, he has his corners marked. It's a little bit inside of the sidewalk.
So this is showing 10 feet,
The drawing.
the drawing.
Yes.
So there really needs to be a request for 2 variances?
Well, they could move it over. It's the entrance, it's to prevent people from backing into the street. So the way they've turned it north and south makes that okay. Because the 20 feet is to prevent people from backing into the street to get out of their carport and things. So the town is okay with the 10 feet. And because that's in line with the neighbor's garage, and it's in keeping with the neighborhood, and that's okay.
Yeah, because I was doing the math here, going, if they went right off of this with 31 feet, there'd still be 11.
Yes, yes, the town's larger problem is the 0.
This is 0 on the setback, okay.
Yeah, and so there are a lot of problems with putting it there, but the problem that we're addressing first is that it's on the 0 lot line, and there are just a lot other, are ways to have it meet both the 20 and the 0 and the 5.
Right, okay.
And so Mr. Keels is more concerned with the 0, and so if this is approved, then we can make the rest work. But if it's not, then it's a moot point for the 20 feet.
Right, okay.
With the suggestion from the city, you'd come up the driveway, which is right directly down from
I
the
think
other
one of the
picture
other
with the 2
photos
eyebrows, yeah.
shows it better.
Showed it right
Yeah,
there.
that
So
one.
you'd come up right there, and you would angle, you'd have to curve, and then slightly, but you'd have to have a bend. It's not a straight shot. And then you would come around into here.
And Mr. Ely's even suggested setting the carport at an angle. This curb cut and sidewalk were in place when the home was designed. So that already existed before the home was designed. That was put in place when the subdivision was first started. So this curb cut has existed since the home was designed. So Mr. Ely has also suggested setting the carport the 20 feet back at a slant, so that eliminates the turn either way.
But still not at 0 setback on the...
Correct. Because if you set it at a slant, you can meet the 20 and the 5 with no problem.
Okay.
Right next to the porta potty, just straight in there.
It wouldn't really fit, it wouldn't meet the 20 because that's a 31 foot from the corner of the house, and I think the carport's 20 feet long. So, then that would be a variance for the 20 feet. So this empty area that hasn't had any construction yet seems to be, in our opinion, and I'm sure there are other varying opinions, the best place to work with it to make it fit. And a slant is one of the options that Mr. Ely came up with, because then it eliminates the 5 and the 20.
But both of them moving it back will, to some degree, impact the solar The passive
For
solar?
let me go back to you can see where the windows are. These two windows are the ones you're using for passive solar also?
Yes.
Okay, so it would need to be far enough away that it wouldn't shade those. But there's, it looks like approximately 30 feet from there to the setback line. So that could be probably done with a flat roof.
Other questions for the applicant or the town? Is there anything else you wanted to say?
Well, let me just address the last points that were made. I'm a real estate peddler. That's what I do for a living. And part of what I counsel my clients on is what's going to happen to their home after they buy it and live in it and perhaps want to sell it. Our feeling is that aesthetically an angled carport is not going to be conducive to resale, and also a flat-roofed carport where everything else has got a pitched roof is not going to work that well either. The carport we've designed has a pitch to it, and that's in keeping with the general construction of employed on the property. So I would just from the standpoint of Mr. Keel's saleability of his house in the future, and also the appearance of the neighborhood. This is a neighborhood where other people are going to want to come and build and see things that make sense visually. So the ideas suggested, although they may be workable, would really challenge the aesthetics of the neighborhood. So I would counsel against that. And again, unless you had a very low carport with a very flat roof, you're going to impact on the passive solar aspect of the house itself. Anytime you go further west than the corner of the house with another structure, you're going to impede the solar gain.
Anything else? Okay. If there's nothing else, then what we do here is we close the public part of the hearing, and then the commission goes to discussion. So if there's anything else you want to say, this is the time to say it. Otherwise, we will be closing this part of the hearing. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, let me start with, the first thing I want to address is the place next door, because I was a part of that. And that was a completely different situation. The homeowner was not at fault. It was not their own doing. The city had made a mistake and it had to be corrected. So that really is neither here nor there to do with this particular case. Second, in looking over the response sheet with the variance, the findings, the first thing is that something has to be a hardship to get a variance. An example is when somebody needs a carport in a place where they can't have a carport because they suddenly have become wheelchair bound, and so they need to have a carport so they're not out in the snow and the ice. That's a hardship. Turning aesthetics, unfortunately, don't really fall, for me anyway, under that category. Second, it has to be something that the homeowner didn't create themselves. And when you receive a lot and you know you're in a subdivision and you know what the lot's constraints are, you know where the driveway is, you know what you have to have done and the size and the amount you're able to build, you need to build within those constraints and take that into account. To build with the idea that you'd like to change in the setbacks and then go for a variance, you've created your own. Nobody outside of you created this hardship, if you call it a hardship, the situation. I understand passive solar, I totally understand that. but it seems like that this situation was completely created by the applicant. So I'm not seeing where 1 or 3 have been met, and then also under 3 is reasonable remedies. And if there are reasonable remedies, it doesn't meet that one. And regardless of whether or not we think it would be nice to be able to put the carport where you would like, we have to go by the 7 findings, and you have to meet each and every one of them. And so this is, and certainly I want to hear the other commissioners' viewpoints on this, but I don't see where we're meeting a couple of the findings, and we can't grant a variance without meeting each and every one. So that is my concern, but I would like to hear what the other commissioners think.
I'm a realtor too, so I understand that the aesthetics and the resale, but I do have to agree with Sherry, or Chairwoman. They didn't meet they can't meet them. I see the same thing, that 1 and 3 for sure, and then 5. It's not going to be consistent with the town's comprehensive plan. So, again, I have to agree with you that we're not meeting all 7 in order to grant a variance.
I'm less convinced with 5, and don't find it personally for myself quite as meaningful, but 1 and 3, I would have to concur with the other commissioners. Yeah.
I do understand Mr. Keel's position, but I have to go with that it does not meet the findings. I think you're going to have to get creative, and I think you can do that on that lot with the carport and how it's set. I don't know, maybe some plantings in that spot there, create some kind of an arbor situation or whatever at the end of the carport. But yeah, the findings have not been met, so I don't think the variance can be granted.
Okay, would anyone like to put forth a motion? You are presenting?
Just that you want to...
I'd like to make a motion that on public hearing VA 15-02, on the request for a variance to allow carport to be constructed within the setback on the property address is 927 Camino de Sueños, applicant owner James Keels, that we not grant the variance because definitely 1 and 3 were not met. I feel like 5 wasn't met either, but definitely 1 and 3.
Do I hear a second? Okay. Before we call for a roll call vote, I do want to point out that when we do a motion, saying aye means that you are agreeing that we would be denying the application. So if you say vote aye, because that's a mistake that people have made. So if you are in agreement with the motion that was made, you would say aye, and that means it would be to deny the application. Is everyone clear on that, so we don't have any? Okay. A lot of times when motions are made, they're in the positive, and so then when they ask for a roll call vote, people will say aye. But they're also thinking that they're saying aye to the request in a way. So you want to make sure that you distinguish with your vote. Are you agreeing with the motion that was just made, which is to deny? So an aye vote would be to deny. That's a mistake that has been made in the past. So, okay, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Larish?
Aye.
Commissioner Stevens,
Aye.
Commissioner Clements,
Aye.
Commissioner Siegenthal.
Okay. I do want to state, first of all, I want to thank you for coming and going through the process. I also want to say that you are very welcome to appeal. If you're uncomfortable with, we have to go by the variance requirements. And if anybody's unhappy with those and they don't like the codes, we're not the place to go for that. The city council is the place to go to change things like that. But if you want to appeal, you can appeal, and you can see Ms. Zembeck afterwards as to how long you have to appeal, and it goes to city council. And I do, again, we all appreciate the situation you're in, but under our regulations, I just don't see that we would be able to. So we wish you luck. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, there is no new business and no forum this evening. Do we have any reports from staff?
I do have exciting news. Mr. Marshall and I are going to start looking at revising the comprehensive plan and the land use code starting in January. The comprehensive plan was written in 2004, and it's recommended to be redone every 10 years, so we're a little behind. And then the land use code will follow that. So we're looking at the comprehensive plan as the umbrella that everything falls under, and then we'll look at the land use code. So I would really, really like citizen participation. So if the commissioners are interested in doing forums, it may actually start work in February because Mr. Marshall will be gone for the legislature, but it's definitely coming up this year, and we're looking at the whole thing. So you all have copies of it if you have suggestions. I know Realtors Group has contacted Commissioner Larish. They're interested in some changes. It's a great time. If there's something that you don't like, think would work better, want to change, it's a great time to get involved for the public also. And my number is 575-534-6349, and I would love to meet with citizens who are interested. And in the coming months, we'll have more information of exactly how the process will evolve. But it's on our agenda for this upcoming year.
Okay, so as soon as you get a little bit more set, I would think it would be a wonderful way of having a forum here.
Yes.
It would be wonderful.
Yes,
We haven't had one in a while, and that's very, very pertinent.
Yes, and it is an important role of the Planning and Zoning Commission in your legislative role to create these things. And I think after hearing cases and being involved, you really get a better grasp of the land use code and what you would like to see. Mr. Marshall and I have had the discussion of where do we want our town to go. What role does the Community Development Department have in that? We would like to move toward a lot more active planning. And I think by the lack of applications for variances and things, I think we've got some things that work really well. Hopefully, Mr. Commissioner Larish, with your experience with your business registration, we try to be public friendly, and I think this would be a great move in that direction.
Wonderful. And as part of that, I've always had interest, I'd like to have a discussion on when we get the conditional use. Now, that's not something that would change there, but I would love to have a discussion on our requirements. For example, here we have to meet all 7 findings, and then all of a sudden we have to meet 1 finding, and it's a really simple thing to meet, really. So it seems like there's not a lot of meat to that in a way, and I would love to have time to discuss that, but that would probably be under a different umbrella, wouldn't it?
That'll be when we get to the land use code. We'd like to tackle the comprehensive plan first,
Okay.
but definitely make notes, and anybody can come in anytime and meet with me about anything so that I can make notes, and when we get to that part, it's a great idea. That way you don't forget.
Right.
Sometimes you think of a great idea, and then 6 months later you've forgotten it. So we're going to work on the comprehensive plan first, and then once we decide where we're going, then the land use code will follow.
Okay.
And that involves everything from looking at zoning categories, zoning lines, everything.
Okay. Okay, wonderful.
So, the comprehensive plan's in your Commissioner handbook, and for the members of the public, if you're interested, it's online, or you can come to our office. We made a copy for Mr. Keel, so now we have one we can check out if anybody doesn't want to read it online. Public Library also has them. So this was done by a consultant in 2004. So there's a lot of information that's still valid. If, once you look through it, a lot won't change, but some things will. So it's a great time to encourage public participation.
So maybe February or March?
I think we'll really get off the ground then. Yes, because he'll be gone for 30 days, starting the middle of January.
And there'll be things in the paper to the public so that
Yes.
they're aware of what's happening. That way we can get some
Yes.
information out so people even know why they would want to come in and...
Yes, and then the forums will be a great idea. I may start going to public events because we've discovered it's a little easier to go to the public than have them come in. So we may be looking at creative ways to get community participation also.
That'd be nice. Wonderful.
So if you have any ideas for that, or if anybody in the public does that's watching, please give me a call. You can also, my email is jimbick, it's EMBICK @silvercitymail.com. And then all my contact information is on the town website.
Okay. Anything else?
We don't have any applications for January, so we probably will cancel that.
Right.
And then Mr. Marshall will be back, and hopefully we can have a forum following that, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5,
Okay.
because it won't be a fast process.
Wonderful. Okay. Any reports from the commission? I would just like to say I have been meaning to say this for a long time, and I wish I had said it prior to Lori being gone. I just want to thank Cats TV because they come in, they set up, and they're here all the time, efficient, they do a really nice job for us, and a lot more people watch than people realize. And I should have said something earlier, and I'm sorry that she's no longer here because we would thank her for her service as well as Ben's for that. So, okay. And is there any community input this evening? Okay. All right. In that case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, all in favor of adjournment? Aye. Thank you.